Hello! So, if you follow my channel, you'll be aware that I'm in the incredibly privileged position to be able to demonstrate a huge range of classic vintage synthesizers, drum machines, samplers, and effects processors, some of the greatest stuff ever made. And to that end, I get the same request time and time again, which is, can you do a video with the cheapest gear from the 80s or 70s that you can get your hands on and show us what you could do with that? So in a world where vintage synthesizers can cost thousands or even tens of thousands of pounds, I set myself a maximum budget of £200, which I thought was pretty much the minimum I would get a programmable polysynth and programmable drum machine combination for. I've got the Korg SuperDrums, which I picked up about 18 months ago, and I've then added to that another Korg, the DW-6000 from 1985. So let's go for it. So here's the raw sound of the SuperDrums. Okay, let's get to work. I'm going to have to program one sound at a time because there's no individual outs, and then I can process them individually. So let's head over to the mixer. Okay, we're going to add a little bit of bottom end. Just a little touch, then find a click in the middle, and then back it off so it's not over the top. Just a little bit more bite on the top and give it some drive. It's not great, but it's better than it was. Let's move over to the snare. Let's drive it a little bit. It's not crisp enough, so let's just dial in some top and some upper mids. Okay, better than it was. Not amazing, but let's go with it. One other trick I'm going to do with the kick and snare is something I was shown with live drums years ago. We'd get a crappy mic and put it in the room pointing at the whole kit and then completely overload it into a preamp. Then when you blend that dirty signal in with the kit mics, it can add some punch and presence to the sound without you being aware that it's there. I'm going to use the external signal processor, envelope follower and trigger generator on this also Korg MS-20 to emulate that idea. Hi-hats, these sound terrible and really machine gun-like as there's absolutely no variation in the samples, so I'm going to create some by splitting the signal and adding some movement and colour with two flanges. The percussion, rim shot and hand claps is basically unusable, it sounds so bad, but if we use two delays, we can give it a little life. Also, the cymbal is, surprise, surprise, very poor quality. Let's reach for the extreme reverb. And it's kind of passable. Okay, finally the toms. I'm going to slap these into a non-linear reverb because 80s. Okay, so here's a reminder of the raw drum sound followed by my processed version. It's not great, but it's an improvement, I think. Okay, the DW-6000. Now this synth has a choice of 8 digital samples as tone generators, and these were additive synthesized waveforms that were emulating the spectra of various acoustic instruments. As you're going to ask, here they all are so you can hear them. Now, as we have 2 oscillators per voice, there's actually quite a lot of flexibility there, and combined with the synth's analog filters and amps and chorus effect, I got some sounds like these. Okay, those aren't half bad, and what's interesting is that a few Korgs of this era had AD-BSSR envelopes, which I think the Beatles did a song about, and these are basically an ADSR with an additional level after the decay called the breakpoint, followed by another time period called slope that leads to the sustain level. Here's that in action. So using that, we can do some nice evolving modulation, particularly if we spread the chord so that each voice's envelopes are running in their own space in time. It's not amazing, but it's not bad, and you'll hear it in context a little later. One other thing I noticed is that the synth has a pedal input to switch to the next program. The idea being that you can save your patches chronologically, then during a live performance just cycle to the next sound when you need it with the press of a pedal. The input signal it takes is a short trigger, which is what Korg used in the 70s and 80s, and of course sequencers can send out short triggers. So I wondered if I could sequence programs, and I can. I guess you could do that over MIDI with program change messages too, but I wouldn't have thought of trying it if it weren't for that rear connection. Right, okay, we've got some sounds, so let's make a little mini song, 1.5 minutes, and see what it sounds like. So there was my little mini song using this gear. I thought I'd just give you a summary of my thoughts of the experience. So on the face of it, you might think that was a superfluous exercise, given that I could get far better results with far less effort by just using better gear. And whilst that's true, I think it's really worthwhile to limit yourself like this from time to time, because you have to think about every single part or every single part of a part and eke the most out of it, because you've got nowhere to hide. And that then feeds into your normal working musical life and helps you open your mind a bit, and helps encourage you to avoid being lazy or kind of falling into habits. So I think I would encourage you to grab some cheapy gear in your local ads or try some free plugins or something and see what you can do with limitations. Okay, Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time.